Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. The time has finally arrived. We have blank Game Week 29 in front of us, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my early transfer plans with 4 free transfers. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, before we look ahead to Game Week 29, let's briefly review Game Week 28. And as always, to have this ready for you roughly when the final game ends on Sunday, I am recording this at half-time during the Manchester United versus Arsenal game. Honestly, a bit of a snooze fest, but right at the end of the half, a really lovely free kick from Bruno Fernandes with some questionable goalkeeping and positioning from Raya, but Manchester United are currently 1-0 up. The only player that I have in that game is Gabriel, and unless he gets an attacking return, it therefore means it will be 0, 1 or 2 points anyway. And when we look through my transfer plans, I'm not currently planning on buying any Manchester United or Arsenal players. So hopefully that second half doesn't change too much. But as of right now, that puts me on 53 points with that second half still to be played, which is another red arrow. I am struggling a little bit with my team right now, but luckily nothing is going like disastrously wrong. That was a difficult thing to say. Like last week when I captained Palmer rather than Salah, I was worried that that was going to be a massive red arrow. This week with a couple of my key players blanking, knowing that I had Dango in my team, obviously Mateta on the bench injured, I was fearing the worst. As of right now, it's a reasonably like middle-sized red arrow from 36k down to about 42k. I should hopefully finish the game week still inside the top 50k. Sadly for me, when we look at my game week 29 team, I'm almost definitely going to get a red arrow in game week 29 as well. But the idea then is from game week 30 to game week 38, hopefully I can climb up the ranks and finish with a rank that I'm very happy with. But I'm still happy with where we are at this point in the season. Let me know how many points you have in game week 28. Just to run through it very briefly, the returns came from a clean sheet for Munoz, and he had another one-on-one. He should have probably really squared it to Ismail Assar, who would have got a brace then. He tried to score, didn't. So we were very close to a 12 or a 15-pointer, but it's nice to have Munoz through this period. Like, he has been so fantastic for me. Obviously, Salah getting 2 penalties. I'll have to address the Salah Palmer thing. There are lots of people saying this isn't lucky. If you didn't captain an in-form Salah against Southampton, you instead went for an out-of-form Palmer against Leicester, then you deserve it, and this isn't to do with luck. I understand the sentiment and the idea behind it is crazy to not captain an in-form Salah against Southampton. I can understand why some people feel that way, but with the way it unfolded, of Salah actually from open play not doing a massive amount. He had a couple of chances he was involved in, but largely there wasn't that much. For him to get 2 penalties in a single game, there is a large amount of luck there. Palmer obviously then goes and gets the penalty, and I know he's not in form, and I know he's missing confidence, but it's Cole Palmer who's brilliant from the penalty spot, and for him to have his penalty saved, that is really unfortunate for Palmer captain. So I feel for you if you've done that. I don't think that it was deserved or anything like that I'm hearing a lot of other people say. I think that's just a bit of bad luck, and we get that in FPL. So glad that I decided not to back against Salah, but I'm not sure the point swing deserved to be anywhere close to what it was in the end. But this is why you sometimes play a little bit safe. The only other return then in my team, which is why I'm on a bit of a red arrow, was actually from Enzo Fernandez. Finally, I got a little bit of something from him. Really frustrating. In the final seconds of the game, he was on 1 bonus point, and he missed a big chance, which took him all the way out of bonus, and obviously he didn't get the goal. So if he'd have scored that, and I know ifs, buts, and maybes, there are lots of things that could happen in FPL, but if he scores that with basically the final kick of the game, he's on 14 points rather than 6, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at a very healthy green arrow. So it's very fine margins in FPL. Obviously, Chris Wood, I wasn't expecting too much from anyway. I knew that Dango would be benched, so I was expecting a 1-pointer. And Burmo wasn't a best fixture for him, but he's been a little bit disappointing recently. And then obviously blanks for Trent and Pickford, and Gabriel looks like he's going to blank too. So it was just one of those weeks. If I'd have had Mateta, I honestly think my team would have done very well. Like, Nketiah missed 2 big chances, and Crystal Palace had over 3 XG in that game. I really feel like Mateta would have returned. So a little bit unfortunate there, but we move on to game week 29. It's going to be a red arrow for me, sadly. Let me know how many points you got, and let's now take a look at that blank game week. So let's move on to Game Week 29, and if I can have one request for the video today, it is that you subscribe. I try not to be too annoying by asking you to subscribe throughout the season, but we are trying to push towards 150,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and I need your help. So if you've never watched my videos before and this is your first one, please subscribe. But if you've watched a few and you've decided to just never subscribe, please do consider doing so. It's completely free for you to do. You can always change your mind at a later date, but it really does help support me and the channel. But for Game Week 29, I reckon this video is going to be a little bit shorter because I'm really just hyper fixated on this blank game week. As much as we can plan ahead a little bit, we need to see what happens in the FA Cup quarterfinals in order for us to know when the future blanks and doubles are. And as I've spoken about for the last week or so, I am planning to wildcard in Game Week 31. So if I'm planning to wildcard in Game Week 31, I of course only have Game Week 29 and Game Week 30. And as we have been speaking about, most of the teams that have a fixture and also a good fixture in 29 also have a good fixture in Game Week 30. The only team that stands out to me as not having a good fixture in both 29 and 30 is actually Everton. So all of the other players that I want to buy, whether it be Nottingham Forest, they've got Ipswich and then Man United. If it's Bournemouth, they've got Brentford and then they've got Ipswich. Every team that I'm looking at, Wolves have 2 good fixtures as well. They're all going to have good fixtures in 29 and 30. So really, this allows me to basically hyperfixate and focus just on Game Week 29. I don't have to do all of the long-term planning and long-term strategizing that I normally would, because the players that I buy in 29 will also serve me okay for Game Week 30. So with that in mind, I've currently got 4 free transfers and 1.9 million in the bank. So whilst my team is an absolute state, I'm not going to free hit because I knew my team would be a state. I've been planning for that, which is why I've been rolling the transfers. And I've actually got a bit of wiggle room in terms of money in the bank as well. So I will be dealing with my team with 4 free transfers, and I can get a healthy-ish 11 with 4 free transfers. The question that I'll be posing to you, because I would love your help with my team as always, is do I take hits? Because I can sort my team, as we'll see in a second, with just the free transfers, but it's like, do you want to take a couple of hits to build a really good optimal team for 29 and 30, or do you just try and skate by in 29 30, accept that you might get a couple more small red arrows or big, and then just deal, and then obviously not take the hits, and then just focus from Game Week 31 and beyond on trying to claw back a little bit of that rank? So with all of that in mind, the team is currently rated at 69% according to Fantasy Football Hub, which is a pretty awful rating, and predicted to get 44 points. So we need to sort it out. In goal, Pickford's fine. Home fixture against West Ham. Don't need to overcomplicate things. In 30, he does have Liverpool away. And because I'm wildcarding in 31, that means I'll have to play Pickford against Liverpool away, which isn't ideal. But he's got a home fixture this week, which is fine. And speaking of home fixtures, Anthony Robinson and Gabriel both playing at home as well. Neither of those are great fixtures. In fact, they're both London derbies, right? Spurs at home and Chelsea at home, but both at home, Robinson and Gabriel do carry some attacking threat. They're both playing for good defences. Fulham are up to 3rd for expected goals conceded this season, and Arsenal are top. Now, I know Arsenal find a way to concede to lots of teams, such as Manchester United, but those are okay fixtures. And it's nice to see that Anthony Robinson came straight back into the starting 11, because obviously he missed out in the prior game week and we were worried. Could he have maybe lost his place, or would he be rotated a little bit more? But coming straight back into the 11 is nice. So basically, as you would expect in a week where there's a blank, Pickford, Robinson, Gabriel are absolutely okay. So then I've got 3 blanking defenders, essentially, in Trent, Munoz, and Vandenberg. Vandenberg, by the way, is supposed to be back in training as of Monday the 10th. So he's supposed to be back in training ahead of Game Week 29, but will he have enough training to be put back into the 11? Do I want to take a risk with that? And even if he does, do I expect Brentford to get anything against Bournemouth away in terms of a clean sheet? No, which is why I want to buy more Bournemouth players. And also, he doesn't really carry much attacking threat. So I feel like I should probably almost treat Vandenberg as a blanking player. What this means is I need to make at least 1 defender transfer. I'm currently planning on keeping Munoz. The reason for that is I have a bit of money tied up in him. He's not that expensive, so it's not like I'm keeping too much money on my bench, because I've already got Salah and Isak benched as well. But also he's got Southampton in Game Week 30, and it's a fixture I really, really want him for. I would also ideally like Trent for Everton at home in Game Week 30, but you can't keep all of these players. So I think as of right now, the plan is to sell both Trent and Vandenberg and then slap Munoz on the bench just due to the reasons that I said there. With the midfield, I've technically got 4 players playing here, with Salah the only one blanking, but 2 of them are disastrous. In fact, 3 of them aren't great. In fact, all 4 of them I don't really love. I'm not sure that I would have any of those 4 on a free hit. In fact, I almost definitely wouldn't have any of those 4. And Mbeumo's probably the best of the bunch because he's on penalties, he takes set pieces. If Brentford score, he's usually quite involved in at least the action, not always getting a goal and an assist. But I guess what I'm saying is, due just to the minutes and the multiple routes to points, there's never a massive issue with me playing Bryan Mbeumo. So he's the one that's okay. And Salah as well. I'm not going to sell Salah because I've got money tied up and I want him from Game Week 30. I don't want to go a single week at the moment without Salah in my team, other than arguably you could say 29. But from 30 and beyond, I want him back in my team. So the only 2 midfielders that are fully safe for me are actually Mbeumo and Salah. The other 3 I could conceivably sell. I want Erling Haaland, as I'll discuss in a second, and a lot of people won't. And we'll have that chat. And let me know down below if you don't. And I fully understand it. He's not essential. But if I want Haaland, I think Palmer's going to be the route for me to do that. He's not playing particularly well. Chelsea aren't playing particularly well either. And it's Arsenal away. Now, after that, Spurs at home is pretty good, but I feel like I can get away with selling him if it allows me to get Haaland in the team. So Palmer probably will be sold. What that then leaves me with, if I sell Trent, Vandenberg, Palmer, Mateta, you'll see in a second, that's my 4 transfers. So Dango and Enzo are both pretty rubbish, but if I want to sell either of them, it is probably going to be for a hit. So I could conceivably sell both Dango and Enzo for a -8, have a really good team at that point if I can sell the pair of them. And it's almost, not quite, but it's borderline a free hit looking team at that point if I can get away with selling the pair of them. But it's required 8 points to do it. The alternative is selling one of them for a 4-point hit. Or just say, do you know what? I can get 11 players out. They might not be starting, they might not be fantastic, but I can get 11 out without taking a hit, don't lose any points, and just hope that I get a little bit lucky with my 11 players. Obviously, Dango I don't expect to start. I said that in Game Week 28. I was not shocked when I read the lineup and saw that he wasn't in the team. I would have been shocked the other way, actually, if it had started. I suppose you never know, right? Semenyo did come off at the end of the game. He was clutching his hamstring, supposedly cramp, and other people were saying he was faking it because he almost got sent off. But I don't expect him to miss out. Even Nielsen has been really good. Tavernier got a goal. Brooks and Sinistera as well are options. So I don't expect Dango to start, but you do never know. And he's also been good off the bench. He scored 2 goals or 3 goals off the bench this season. Is it worth taking a hit to do something like Dango to Elanga or Hudson-Odoi? Is that a good use of the transfer? Or do we maybe expect that Dango could do something off the bench and it's probably not worth the 4-point hit? Because even if Dango gets 1 point off the bench, right? That's a 1-pointer for Dango. If I take a 4-point hit and the player I bring in gets me 7 points, I'm still only gaining like a couple of points there. It's not a massive win. And the flip side is if Dango gets anything off the bench or does surprisingly start, then it might have been a really bad use of that transfer. So I am a little bit hit averse in recent seasons. I've become more and more hit averse. So I don't want to miss out on a potential higher upside transfer, but I also don't want to take a hit if it's not required. And I think Dango off the bench against Brentford in the final 20-25 minutes could do a little bit of damage. The other issue with Dango is then I would also want to play him in Game Week 30. So if I sell Dango to a better player for 29 and 30, it is a 2-week transfer. It's not just Game Week 29. So these are the things I'm thinking about with Dango. With Enzo, I actually have been quite impressed with him recently. I think he's been unlucky not to get more. And so I don't have an issue with him as an asset. He plays 90 minutes. He takes set pieces. He's got assist threat and a little bit of goal threat. He can strike a ball well. And Spurs at home in 30 is fine. But Arsenal away for Enzo in 29, it feels like a guaranteed 1 or 2 pointer. Like, they're not keeping a clean sheet there, you wouldn't imagine. And I wouldn't imagine that he gets an attacking return. So it's the same situation. Like, I expect Dango and Enzo to both get 1 to 2 points each. Like, I'm not expecting either of them to return. So it's like, do I take a hit to remove either/both in the hope that the player that I bring in goes and gets 1 or 2 plus returns? So let me know what you think about Dango and Enzo. Would you sell one or both for hits? And then we move on to my front line. I'm going to obviously keep Chris Wood. At the moment, Chris Wood's my captain. If I don't buy Haaland, Chris Wood probably will be. But if I buy Haaland, I'll probably end up giving Haaland the armband, as we'll discuss. And then Isak I want to keep because I've got the most top money tied up in. So Mateta and Isak, I could conceivably keep either. Southampton away in Game Week 30 for Mateta is probably better than Brentford at home for Isak in Game Week 30. But I've got more money tied up in Isak than I do Mateta. I would love, in an ideal world, to have both of them from 30 and beyond. So it's like, which one do you keep? If I'm really short on money and there's a couple of moves I want to make that selling Isak would give me the money to do, whereas selling Mateta won't, there is a world in which I sell Isak rather than selling Mateta. But because I currently have like 0.9 million tied up in Isak versus 0.2 tied up in Mateta, I'm currently planning on benching Isak and selling Mateta because I can still make the transfers I want to with that in mind. So there we go. Let me know what you think of that set of plans. So to recap, before we then take a little bit of a look about what the team would actually line up like, I'm probably planning on selling Trent, Vandenberg, Mateta, and Palmer with my 4 free transfers, which would give me 11 players. I then need to decide, do I want to take the extra hits to remove Dango and or Enzo, which would leave me with Salah, Isak, and Munoz on the bench. So with all of that in mind, let's take a look at the players that I'm possibly bringing in and what that 11 might line up like. So guys, I've just jumped over to Fantasy Football Hub to do a little bit of planning and show you exactly what those transfer ins might look like, because I've just spoken about in quite a lot of depth there, the players that I'm looking to sell, why, and which other ones could be sold for a hit. But I've not spoken about who I'm actually looking to bring in. If you do want to check out Fantasy Football Hub and do a little bit of planning ahead yourself, as you can see here, you can sort of plan ahead for future weeks. You can check out price changes as well. Lots of other stuff. Opta stats, player comparisons, assistant manager points predictions, all of that stuff. There is a link down below to check them out and get 30% off. So, with all of that being said, and that long ramble about the players that I'm looking to sell, I do think I'm going to sell Mateta. But as you'll see in a second, money does get a little bit tight on some of the midfielders that I can potentially look at if I sell Mateta as opposed to Isak. So if I decide that I want to get some slightly better midfielders and that selling Isak would allow me to do that, and we know for a fact we get some good, I wouldn't say confirmation, but some good news around Mateta that he will be fit for 30, then I probably will end up selling Isak. Because I do have my eye on team value, right? And I don't want to miss out in wildcard 31 because I end up selling Isak, and I will want Isak on my wildcard in 31. But I also do need to do the best that I possibly can in Game Week 29 as well. So one of Mateta or Isak will be sold. Let's go Mateta for now, and Haaland is the one I want. Right, so you can see immediately that leaves me with minus 5.5 in the bank. So that's the first transfer I want to do. The second transfer I want to do is actually Trent to Gvardiol. I know a lot of people will look at this and say, why are you bringing in 2 Manchester City assets? They're not playing particularly well. Brighton actually are in a great run of form. Brighton are second for expected goals conceded over the last 10. So whilst this is a home fixture, and traditionally Gvardiol and Haaland have been good assets, that is a lot of money. What is that? Over 20 million spent on Gvardiol and Haaland for a fixture that doesn't look that great. I get it, and I'm not saying that you necessarily should, but when I've got the transfers to do it, and if I was on a free hit, I would probably go for at least 2 Man City players. I kind of want to do it, and I think the fixture in Game Week 30 is the one that's swinging me as much as 29, because that's Leicester at home. And if I am planning a wildcard in 31, let's say they do truly stink it up over the next 2, well, I'll just get rid of them both for the Game Week 31 wildcard. So I just think the next 2 weeks, both being at home, Haaland is arguably the best captaincy option in 30. Let's see if we actually have the bottle to go against Salah. I just want him. I'm not suggesting you follow me. I'm not suggesting for a second he's worth 15 million. Haaland is definitely not worth 14.7 million at the moment. But if there is a way for you to get him in, and sacrificing someone like Palmer is the way to do it, and Trent, I'd happily lose Palmer and Trent to get a slightly differential Haaland in my team. So that's the plan as of right now. And with Gvardiol, I just think he's very attacking. City's defensive data has improved. They largely kept Forest at bay. I know they lost, but I've been a little bit more impressed with them defensively. I think they're a nice set of 2 transfers. So, I then obviously have to sell Palmer, and I probably want to sell Vandenberg. For now, I'm going to say Agbadu, and you might say firstly who, if you don't know who that is, but also why not 8 Nuri? Money could get a little bit tight if I want to go get Cliver as opposed to Semenyo. And with the way that Semenyo's playing right now, I am a little bit put off. I don't want to get too knee-jerky, but it was not a good performance from him again. And I just don't like, his minutes have been so good, but Bournemouth fans are calling like, surely he doesn't keep getting 90 minutes every game if his performances aren't quite there. So if I want a Bournemouth mid, it's so boring and it's a bit protective rather than attacking, but I am semi-tempted by Cliver. So I'll go Agbadu in there for now. And what that would leave me in that Palmer position is 6.6. Now, I don't have to go for a Bournemouth mid, by the way. I could go for Gibbs-White, Alanga or Hudson-Odoi. I could... Is there anyone else I'm really looking at? Maybe I could try and stretch to a Jared Bowen if I make another transfer elsewhere to downgrade. I think at the moment, Cliver makes the most sense, which is really boring, and he's quite a bit more than Semenyo. Do you know what? I don't want Cliver. I want Semenyo. I want the lower-owned player, but I'm just a little bit worried, and especially as he went off with a bit of cramp. Like, is there a world in which he doesn't start a game? I suppose there is, but his minutes have been so secure. Anyway, if I go Semenyo, that would leave me 0.9 bank in the bank then. So my 4 transfers would be Haaland in, Gvardiol in, Agbadu in, and Semenyo in. Right, so those 4, that would be my 4 free transfers done. If I make those exact moves, that would leave me with 0.9 as of right now, but price changes might change that. Then I would have the choice. Do I want to sell Dango for anyone up to 6.1, or do I want to sell Enzo for anyone up to 5.6? That becomes a little bit tempting, right? I could do Dango to Cliver, I think. Let me just double check that. As of now, with no price changes, yeah, I can't. In fact, ignore me. I would be 0.1 short. So something like Alanga or Hudson-Odoi is another option, but that would be for a hit. I could then, of course, go and get the other one, right? I could just go, do you know what? I'm going to go all out, take a -8 hit, and get Hudson-Odoi and Alanga. All of a sudden, that team then looks a lot better. It's not a free hit team by any means, but I would look at that and say I would expect it to do relatively well. I've got no massive rotation risks. I've got rid of the big issues in my team, the players that are blanking. I've got rid of Dango and Enzo, but I'm already 8 points down at the start of the week. So if I put the team back like this, restore these players here, this is what it would be like for free. Now, if I get Semenyo as opposed to Cliver, then I, of course, wouldn't go Agbadu. I would go 8 Nuri. So, this is really rambling. I do apologise. That leaves me with 0.1 in the bank at the moment. This is currently roughly what it would look like for free. Do you think I should take any hits beyond that? And I will think about this throughout the week. It's basically how bad do I think Dango and Enzo are? Because HAALAND, Wood, and Burmo, Semenyo, Gabriel, Robinson, Aiton, Nuri, Gavardiol, Pickford, those 9 are great. I really don't have any issues or concerns with those. But Dango and Enzo aren't good. Enzo's got a rubbish fixture, and Dango's not going to start probably. I'll leave it there. I don't think I need to say any more right now. There's a long week ahead, in fact, in where we'll get a lot of information. I'm not making early transfers this week, unless I'm going to be completely priced out of all of the stuff that I want to do. Let me know what your plan is. Let me know what you think of my team, and especially what you think about those hits. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 29 transfer plans. I need to have a proper sit down and think about, what do I want to do in Game Week 29? Do I want to get aggressive, take the hits? Or do I want to sit back, accept a small red arrow, and just leave it as it is and hope that I might get a little bit jammy? Again, let me know what your plans are as well. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to subscribe. Drop a like as well. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.